How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
Welcome back, MuniciPals. This is Chris and Ashton. What's going on, buddy?
Not much, man. Happy Monday. I just saw ESPN sent me notification that there were basketball games tonight. I did not realize that, but I'll be locked in tomorrow. So too busy thinking about our wonderful day at Chardonnay to worry about college basketball, you know?
Oh, man. Saturday was such a blast. Chardonnay, thank you. Thank you, Bob Becker, for having us out. That was absolutely a wonderful experience. I mean, both of us played Chardonnay multiple times. That was one main reason we reached out to come out and do a full-on review of them, because it is easily I'd say top 10 favorite tracks in the Bay Area. So,
no doubt. The conditions were also just fantastic, but we'll take it back to 30,000 feet before we dive in.
Yes, sir. So Friday, I went out and played Rooster Run, which is now I wouldn't say a home track of yours, but you have gone out there and gotten lessons from one of their pros out there as of late. It is a really, really fun track. You kind of introduced me to it. I knew of its existence, but I didn't really know how good it was.
Oh, I didn't realize. Was that your first time?
That was my first time. Yeah, it was. We scored a morning tee time. You know, of course, it's, as everybody knows, it's impossible to score tee time. So when I looked and Rooster Run had a, before 9 a.m. tee time, I jumped on it as fast as I could and went out there and played with our boy Juan.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. I mean, just because, I guess at this point, I just assume you've played everywhere. But yeah, I only knew Rooster Run because, yeah, exactly. I've started to get lessons from the guy out there, Dave Johnson, who's awesome. And of course, the last time I went out there, had a lesson with Dave, then went straight to the first tee, which is usually a pretty bad combo. But I was blown away. I think that's a really fun golf course. And I know for us on a Saturday, it was $44 to carry your bag, which, that goes back to the MuniciPals idea, like excellent conditions, great pace of play, $44, like sign me up all day, man.
Yeah, and you could tell, like, there's heavily peppered fairways with divots, but they had guys going around with sand buckets filling the holes, and the fairways were pure when you unfortunately weren't in a divot. But that's just because Muni golf is getting heavily played right now, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you could tell they're trying to keep up as much as they can with sanding the holes and really getting out there and seeding, immediately following people playing. And the greens ran great. They're perfect for a Muni. They weren't running absolutely, like glass, but they weren't running slow either. They're right in the middle pace. So, people weren't falling off the table when you were putting, a nice lag putt or anything like that. So
yeah,
I enjoyed it. Me and Juan both the entire round kept looking at each other and said, yeah, we got to come out here again for this price point.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100% worth it.
Yeah, we felt the same way. Yeah. And so for you to get Rooster Run and then Chardonnay back to back, I would say that, certainly two of the most fun, affordable public tracks I've played since I've moved here.
Oh, yeah. And that's what we keep saying, too. In the North Bay, there are so many great golf courses out there. It's absolutely incredible the amount of golf that you have, all the way up from, Sebastopol, Bodega Bay, Northwood, all the way down till you cross any of the bridges. There's endless amounts of great tracks out there, which me and you both, since unfortunately it's hard to score tee times down by us, have ventured out there a lot lately, and I'm glad actually that we've been pushed out there to play, because
totally
spectacular golf, which leads into the course that we were invited out to play, which is absolutely one of our favorite places, Chardonnay Golf Club. So a little bit about Chardonnay, guys. It was built in 1987, originally a 18-hole course. It was then pushed out to 27 holes a few years later, which went as the Lakes, Vineyard, and Meadows 9-hole layouts, which they rotated. Then got expanded to 36 holes, which included the private side, which they went semi-private at that point, and had a private side called the Club of Shakespeare, Napa Valley. And then they had the public side, which was the Vineyards Course Chardonnay Golf Club. And that was open in 92. So then in the 2000s, they actually had another course that was built right next to them called Eagle Vines, which took some of the holes off of the private side and brought them over to create Eagle Vines. So now there's two completely separate properties, Eagle Vines and Chardonnay. And Eagle Vines has some of the original Chardonnay holes, and then some of the original holes were then turned into vineyards, which is one of the most spectacular parts about Chardonnay, which driving into the place. I know, Ash, you can talk a little bit about, driving up to Chardonnay and the experience you have. You're up in the vineyards in Napa Valley. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think one of the major appeals to me, especially going north, especially playing Chardonnay for me living in San Francisco, is the drive is beautiful. I mean, we can talk about this in a second. I cut it a little bit too close to our tee time. I think I made our tee time by 2.5 minutes. I basically said hello to you guys and walked straight to the tee. But I think one of the things that's really what I love the most, for me, like go out of the city, across the bridge, and kind of watch change as you kind of get to wine country. I would say probably the last 15 minutes, I think it's actually in American Canyon, California, which is just not a place I knew existed before I played Chardonnay. But the last 15 minutes is kind of all in the vineyards and you can see it. And then you kind of, as you make your last turn before you pull into the actual property, you see holes that I believe are Eagle Vines first. And when I first came, I was like, oh, it's Chardonnay. It's not, it's Eagle Vines. But then you turn in and it's a really kind of nice meandering path. Again, you can see lots of vineyards. And then once you get out of the car, once you actually drop your bag off, then it's pretty clear. It's like, oh, so I thought this, but I'm actually playing golf in the middle of an active vineyard, which, I mean, honestly, I think I've played there now 4 times. It doesn't ever get old, does it?
Never. I mean, even on a couple of the holes on the back nine, you had people out there working the actual vineyards amongst us playing on a Saturday, which was, it's one of those cool experiences that, we really get spoiled by having these courses out here in the Napa Valley, because you really don't experience stuff like that on the East Coast or, places that don't have such a large wine culture, which is really cool to have that mixture of golf and wine. And this course is built and created so well to have that mixture, which unfortunately we'll get into it. The vineyards, the course is wide open. It's a very lush, fun track to play, but there really isn't any openings outside the fairways or rough. If you do make it into the vineyards here, it's red staked, which means that it is immediate drop and a stroke penalty. So that's the one penalizing thing, playing out inside, in the monks of vineyards. But it's a spectacular view that you cannot get anywhere else.
No, and I mean, I think the big thing too is, I'm not trying to sound like I work for CBS and you add some tagline, but it's like a true test of golf. I mean, that's how it feels, because it's, yeah, man, if you're kind of blowing your driver all over the planet, you're going to have a really, really bad day at Chardonnay. And I think the other thing that I really appreciate too is so many tees. I feel like certain courses I've played, it's like blue, white, red. I think there's 5 sets of tees at Chardonnay. And also a really nice part about that I really appreciate is the names. So they're actually all wine related as well. So we have, oh my God, Sauvignon, is that what that is? This is embarrassing.
So Sovereign, Imperial, Double Magnum, and Magnum. All right. So it's actually the size of wine bottles is how far back you go in the tee. So
my God, I am so embarrassed right now. I was thinking Cabernet Sauvignon.
You should be, because you are much more educated than me, and so you should have this down.
I mean, it's a tough look for myself. I apologize to everyone. That is incredibly embarrassing. Yeah, I was like, there's no way it's sovereign. That like there's a sovereign nation. But no, I'm just going to shut up. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that the teas, there's a lot of tea options. I think it's cool it's related to wine, but I also just showed that I don't know that much about wine. And all those things are actually very true.
And I'm sure, Ash, to this point, you probably didn't even realize that was the size of wine bottles.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, everybody knows Magnum is a very large wine bottle, double Magnum. Just by the name, has to be double the size of that. And then you go Imperial and so on, and that just is the size of
I noticed you stopped. You didn't say the name. You said the so on is the last one, the one I didn't know. Except you're not just going to say it. I'm not going to use some weird French accent here.
I'm pretty sure the pronunciation is Sovereign. But anybody can DM us and change that on us. I'm not sure. Anyways, we're not here
a wine podcast. We're a hot dog podcast. We're a wine podcast. All kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh. With that, every hole kind of had a name as well, which was really cool. We talked about that with some of the other courses that we've played on some of our trips, and just having little touches like that, where they have wine barrels at every single hole that gives you the distances and the names of the hole. Just little touches are really nice. The course is just well laid out, well manicured. I give massive props to the superintendents and the marshals out there as well. With the amount of play, we had one. We unfortunately, it kind of my fault. I had to. On the turn of the 9, I had to have a little bathroom break, and of course I had to grab a hot dog and get something to drink. So we were a little slow starting the back 9, and so we had the marshal on our ass a little bit. So he came up to us and he tells us there's 200 in. I don't want to get drunk.
I know. No, I remember. He said 240, which I understand what he was saying, but I was talking to my buddy Nick earlier. That maybe there was 240 people on the course over the entire day. There was no way there was 240 people on the golf course at 11 a.m. There's just no physical way that can happen.
They probably had 240 on the books for the day, but still 240 for an entire day to keep the pace of play. They were doing a marvelous job of keeping the pace of play. And we needed to get a boot in our ass because we were rightfully behind.
Yeah, hot dog boy to do his thing.
Hey, had to get it done. Had to get a hot dog in there. Unfortunately, we'll get into this real quick.
I was gonna say you have to tell the people.
This is probably the only little snuff I'll have the entire day. So we go in there. They unfortunately didn't have any hot dogs ready, which I was a little bummed. So I went with my second favorite, a nice little Polish dog. One big thing is it could have been a little warm when I got it. I did wait through the 10th hole. When I got to the 11th tee box, that thing was ice cold. It should have been. It was inside a container. Should have been a little warm. I don't know what happened. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying it was ice cold. It wasn't even lukewarm. I was a little bummed. It had great flavor, even though it was cold. But that's gonna be my bad take on Chardonnay, and it was the only bad take I think I had of the entire day. Other than that,
what numerical value do you give it? Because you give good ones 6.1. So what is this?
No, it was for sure between a 2 and a 3. If I'm going to be 100% honest, a cold hot dog instantly, or a Polish dog, I instantly gets a horrible rating. And
but you know what, to the Chardonnay folks, I'm just gonna say, like, no worries, because Chris was the one holding us up. So I'm just gonna blame Chris's slow pace of play and not the lovely lady working at the club shop.
And you know what?
Oh my God,
I'll be back, and I'm gonna for sure give it another go. And I'm hoping that they have a nice steaming hot dog for me on the turn next time. So
Steaming hot dogs.
steaming dog. So Chardonnay, epic day. Ashton shows up 2 seconds before we're teeing off.
It was rough.
Real rough, especially because him and Jack lost Vegas to me and Juan. We definitely demolished you guys.
Okay, I think you should give the people, because I had never heard of this. Explain Vegas real quick. Give them the 30-second Reader's Digest version.
All right. Vegas is one of my favorite betting games when we play golf. So
it's crazy.
Vegas can get nuts, especially if you're a hustler, especially if you can get some high handicaps to play against you. You can definitely take some money really, really easily. So Vegas is basically taking the combined lowest score of a two-person team. And so if you're in a foursome, you got two teams playing. And so let's say Ashton and Jack shot a 55 or a par and a par on a par 5. Their score would be a 55. If me and Juan shot a birdie and a par, our score would be 45, meaning Jack and Ashton now owe us $10. So this can get out of hand. So if you have anybody that's having a rough day blowing it off the planet, and your partner is also having a rough day blowing it off the planet, you could be in for a hurting when it comes to having to pay up at the end of the round. Unfortunately, me and Juan had it going in the beginning, lost a little bit. It could have been real rough for Ashton and Jack. We could have been up easily $40 or $50. But me and Juan unfortunately had a couple holes where we let it slide and let Jack and Ashton take a little bit of that money back. But
and shout out to Jack. I mean, I think Jack made a birdie on a par 5 that was like a $30 hole. So I mean, that was it. It really
that's the hole I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the fun with Vegas. But yeah, when you start to hear like, wait, so you guys make one par and a bogey, we made both a bogey, it's $10. Like your eyes kind of get as big as dinner plates, but it's pretty fun. So I think it was definitely a fun game to play. Especially too, because Chardonnay is definitely a course where, again, I think that like with the vineyards, and it just is the course where it's hard. You need to think. It's not just bash it anywhere, And
it's great. It's a great game to play with teams as well, because if you have a good partner and someone you might have played with, strategy is key with Vegas. So if you hit it first, you blow it off the planet. Like let's say we're playing a Chardonnay like we were, and you blow it off the planet into the vineyards. You want to look at your partner and say, get anything you possibly can in the middle of the fairway so that we can still par this hole to at least keep our lowest score low. And so it's a really, really enjoyable, fun game. We had a blast. It ended up only being where Ashton and Jack owed us $16 total. So it wasn't too bad. Jack definitely got a lot of that back right on the back nine, but
he saved us.
He saved you. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, we should also give a shout out. So I show up super late, and then we go up to the first tee, and they called out the podcast, which we were talking. It's like, oh man, like I don't think people were actually like listening to the announcer guy. But to your point, we all kind of got I don't know. We got maybe a little nervous. Like we're not trying to like call out what we're doing, but it's interesting. Like the MuniciPals podcast to the first tee. It's like, oh God. Okay,
it was pretty dope. Yeah, shout out Bob Becker. He is the man. He's the general manager there at Chardonnay. If you're ever out there, please say hello to Bob. I mean, this guy is a full class act. From the minute we got there, he came out, said hello, introduced himself to us, all the way to the end of our round, where Bob met us at the bar and chatted with us for a while and got to really know what we were doing and what our whole thing was about. So I will have to say, with all great faith, Bob invited us out, not really knowing a whole lot of what we were about or what we were doing, and it was a spectacular day. So I want to shout out Bob, and that little shout out for us on the first tee was pretty awesome. Instead of announcing our names or anything like that, he shouted out the entire podcast and got a couple weird glances over, but it was a cool little vibe that we had going starting off our round.
Yeah, and Chris, you were saying I think you should expound on this a bit. You said before we press record, you think that we'll go through some of our favorite holes here, but you said you think number one is one of your favorite starting holes. You should kind of expound on that and tell the people about that because I agree, it's a really nice kind of handshake par four to start off your day.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't like on a golf course is either starting off with something that's absurdly challenging or an extremely long par five. Those are two of my least favorite ways to start off a round. Like if you've ever played Tilden Park in Berkeley, one of my least favorite starting holes of all time is hole number one at Tilden Park. This thing is straight up a hill, like 400. I don't even want to say the number, but it's a fairly decently long par four, and it's
When we
tiny
played there
little
last
green.
time, I hit driver hybrid and didn't get on the green.
Yeah, I mean it's an absurd hole. It's absolutely horrendous hole. But off topic there. Chardonnay is very welcoming, wide open, 100 to 120 yard wide fairway. This thing is wide, deep open. And it's got a bunker on the left that unfortunately I found, but if you hit a decent drive, it's really not going to be too much in play. The hole is very, very inviting at 399 from the tips, 385 from where we were playing the one-ups. And, I mean, if you hit a really solid, 360 to 380 drive, you're only 100 to 90 in. I mean, it's not much. So
Are we playing with Bryson? You just said 360 or 380.
my bad. So 260 to 280. My fault there.
The new epic speed is working great for Chris. He's now consistently hitting at 380.
I wish I could just pull a brand new driver out and start hitting like Bryson. That'd be ridiculous. Anyways, yeah, so 385. If you can hit a 260 to 280, you've got a nice little wedge in. It's very, very inviting, and probably one of the larger greens, I would say, out on the entire course as well. So, nice little way to start. And then, you go into number two, which is a little bit longer, par four. And then you've got a par three after that, which we were talking earlier. One of the coolest things about the course, it's a 666. So there's 6 par fives, which might be an unlucky number for some, but it's 6 par fives, 6 par fours, 6 par threes, which is a cool setup. Most of the time there's a lot less par threes than that on most, championship or longer 18s. So, to be able to see that broken up exactly like that, it's nice to have, 3 on each side, which is really a sick way to set it up. But, after the inviting one, let's get into what is your favorite holes on this course?
So number one is number 7. So 7 is just really hard and it's really long. It is from what we were playing, it's a 567 yard par 5. I feel like it's usually, this time it was not, but it's usually can be into the wind. It's on a bit more of an exposed part of the golf course. So I think what makes this one particularly challenging is this is good golf architecture. Right where you want to hit your driver, the fairway comes in. So you really need to hit a 3-wood or kind of like I hit my 2 hybrid. And I think the big thing from a strategy standpoint is there's no real reason to hit driver there because, I mean, you can help me, Chris. If you hit a hybrid or a 3-wood and then you hit another hybrid or a 3-wood, I think I hit hybrid, and then I ended up having a 8-iron in. So the point is to say, it's just like, I just think it's a hole that requires like a lot of par 5s, you'll kind of just hit driver, just hit a hybrid or a 3-wood and you kind of chip it on and hopefully, make the putt. But this hole, it's like really smart tactical shot off the tee, another really long shot. But then of course, in that situation, it really matters what you do, because if you go too far to the right, you're blocked off by the trees. And for me, I would have to hit a draw to this very complicated green. For you to have to hit a cut. So it's just one of these holes that requires, like, for you to be on that green putting for birdie, it takes 3 perfect, solid, precise shots. Like if you yank it or like even just, I'm not saying out of play because there is water here. There's a ravine. There's the vineyard. I mean, it's a really, really hard hole, but I mean, I think it's the hardest hole in the course.
Yep.
But then, of course, you have this 2-tier green as well that's very big. And there's, again, crap all over the right side. And on top of that, on the left side of the green, there's also a bank which aggressively pushes the balls down. This is the hole where Jack made birdie. But you actually said, he had the ball up there. It was coming with such speed off that hill. I thought it was going to go all the way across the green into the water. So as you can tell, there's like 75 ways this hole can go wrong. And so I know I made a bogey, and was like super happy with it. It's one of the hardest par fives I've ever played. But again, back to the real test of golf. I mean, like I really enjoy it because it's a real test of like, can I walk off there? Probably not going to make birdie, but like, a 5 or 6 just to keep the round moving,
Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely fun hole to play too because it's very thought provoking. You can't just like you were saying, pull your normal clubs you pull on a par 5 that distance, because it does have the trees on the left, it does have the ravine, in front of you if you lay up on your second shot, then which you pretty much, for most average golfers, I mean, you really don't have much of a choice. You can try to hit over it, but I mean, you're trying to hit a 240 to 250, second shot, and it's not doable for most. I mean, and if you're hitting your 3-wood that far, then you probably hit your driver over 300, which then, you probably can get on too. But for most average golfers, you're hitting your driver 250, 260. So your play is layup, or like we said, got to hit a hybrid or, 3-wood to hybrid to 3-wood, and that's kind of the layup there. It's a really, really fun track, or really fun hole. I would say my favorite hole is probably 5. So 5 is this really cool par 3. Basically, you're in an elevated tee box, and right in front of the green is a really skinny, long green left to right. Has a giant hill behind it, so kind of a backstop. If you hit it a little far, you'll still be okay, but you cannot hit it short. There's a giant ravine that runs right through the front of 5, where you actually have to, if you're walking, you actually have to walk across a bridge over to get over to the green. And it's one of my favorite green complexes on the entire course as well, because I would say the green can't be any further than 10 to 15 yards long, but it's 30 yards wide. And I swear to God, I've played this course half a dozen times at this point. I have never, ever seen the pin on the right side of the screen, or even in the middle. I would say every single time that I've played there, they tuck it behind these trees on the left-hand side in the swell of the green. And it's one of the hardest little, 150-yard shots you'll ever have, because the only way to play this hole is to hit it a little long. It's 150 yards. You want to hit it 155, 160, and hope you bring it back right off the hill. Because, like I said, if you hit it short, it slopes back to front, so you could spin that thing right off the green. It's one of my favorite par 3s I think I've ever played.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, Chris, the first time I ever played here, the pin was on the right. I would actually say that I think the hole was significantly harder there.
Okay.
Because where the hole was for us, you can tell that there's, I guess you could spin it off the front of the green, but the point is there's some green to work with on that left side of the green there. The problem with it on the right side is it looks like there's no green at all, because the green there is so narrow. So I know when we played there last time, I clicked the number and was kind of half paying attention. I mean, I think it was like 143 to the flag, and I hit my 140 club. It literally landed like inches over and kind of bounced up, and like I was putting, but like it was by the skin of my teeth. So I would say, like, just kind of like hit your 150 club in the middle of the green. Totally ignore the flag. Of course, you can be like me and hit like, you know, a pretty good shot to like 15 feet, then three jack. That's always super fun. But yeah, I mean, to your point, right is hard, left is hard. They do give you a little bit. One thing I appreciate about Chardonnay is all of their drop zones for their tough parts are actually over stuff. So like on that hole, for example, the drop zone is like just a kind of a casual little chip. So you still have a chance for bogey. But yeah, it's a super fun green. And I think that's the big thing too, is it's easy to get caught up on the vineyards and the beautiful views. But I think these are some of the craziest complexes. Like one of the holes we won't actually talk about is 10, but you called it the fidget spinner green. Like I've never seen a fidget spinner green before. So the green complexes are very interesting and very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the coolest things about Chardonnay is every green is extremely, extremely different. And they're not undulating and penalizing in any way because they all flow to the correct spots. So and another props to the superintendents, they're not putting, you know, pins in very difficult locations to where, you know, the ball isn't naturally going to flow there if you hit it in the correct spots on the green. You know, where every time I've played out there, where they place the flags, if you're hitting your ball in the correct spots on those greens, they always flow correctly to the hole. And that's exactly like that par 3 on the back 9, where you're again elevated, and it's a very, very large green left to right with, I would say, 20 feet. No, maybe not 20 feet, but probably a good, you know, 10 feet elevation change from the left to the right, where the bottom of the green on the right hand side is easily 10 feet lower than the green on the left. And it's just a very, very drastic change on that. But if you do hit it up on the top and you hit it on the slope and the hole placement is on the bottom, the ball will always flow right to where the basin of the hole is. And it's great. It's the same thing at the top. As long as you hit it at the top and where they place it, if you even hit it below and you have to hit it up the hill, I think you had to do that on that hole. If you hit the right slope putting upwards, it will flow straight down into the basin where you need it at the top of the hill. It's just very, very well done set of greens out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're talking about number 8. That was definitely one of my favorites.
My apologies, not on the back nine, number 8.
No, yeah, all good. But I think that's, again, the first time I played there, I think, you know, the pin was in the bottom right, hit a pitching wedge, and then, you know, the pin is on the top left, hit 8 iron. So that just tells you right there, right? It's 2 clubs difference. Yeah, and to your point, I kind of pulled an 8 iron and was on like 2 tiers down. I joked, but it was actually true that basically the pin I was putting was like at my eye level. So basically I was like 5 feet down as I was putting. And of course, you know, 3 putted for I think my like 6th bogey in a row. But yeah, but super interesting and super captivating. I mean, just such a cool, and again, a lot of kind of elevated tee box, but not in a gimmicky way. It's not like mountain golf where it's like, you know, it's like a 200-yard shot and you're hitting pitching wedge. But again, a lot of stuff that just, again, it's definitely a golf course that makes you think, right? And also, too, one thing that I think good golfers have to think a lot about is, like, where do I want to miss? You know, and for example, there, like, honestly, missing down that tier and giving myself a 65-foot putt up the hill, it's a bad miss, but that's totally on me, right? Like, that's not the place to miss there.
No. And, I mean, we also don't want to be where Jack missed either, which was over the bushes.
Eagle vines.
So on this hole on 8, you actually can see multiple holes on Eagle Vine on the left-hand side, which, again, I'm pretty sure those are some of the original holes of Shakespeare, which was a private side when it was all one. But, yeah, Jack, this is second time in a row that he's played this hole and has landed in another golf course and had to chip over back into ours, which was a pretty hysterical
Jack
scene.
and Jack and number 8 at Chardonnay did not go well. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, he makes a 4 on a almost 600-yard par 5, and I guarantee he didn't make a 4 on like a 150-yard par 3. But if that's not golf, I don't know what is.
No. And I mean, that's one of our favorite holes. And I think you said that was one of your favorite holes as well.
Yeah. And then the last one for me, and I'll shoot it back over to you, is number 12, actually another par 3. I just remember this one vividly. It's not on the scorecard, but it's called The Shoot. Again, another really good, really interesting green, back to front, starting up in kind of the right side. There's a bunker to the right of the green. There's crap kind of short and left, but it's called The Shoot because it's kind of tucked in between trees. So you really need to have kind of an accurate, really kind of solid iron shot. But it's one of those like, to sound much smarter than I am, it's much visually arresting, right? You kind of look at it, it's very stimulating. And again, like, it can really be dictated a lot by weather conditions. I mean, I think the weather was still, we were a bit warm. I think I hit an 8-iron to a front flag there. When I played there a couple weeks ago with Marcus and crew, the wind was in our face and it was cold. I hit a kind of a stinger 6-iron. I mean, I flew into the back bunker, so it was too much club. But again, it was playing like probably a club and a half difference based off of weather. So again, just kind of love that, where it's like, but again, if you miss short and right a little bit, plenty of room. But that's, again, the golf course being like, you can miss short and right, you can miss kind of long and left, but the other options, you're boned, right? Because also the other hard part with the bunker is, if you mishit it, you're going to hit it into the ravine, and then you're going to make a huge score. And for Vegas, it's obviously pretty. I'm now realizing that Vegas is probably it's a probably really diabolical game to play at Chardonnay, where things can go sideways really fast.
Yeah, and luckily it didn't get too out of hand for us while we were out there.
No.
So
yeah. So for me, I got a super long par 5 at number 7, a kind of crazy green at number 8, and then number 12, which is the par 3 called The Shoot. So those are my 3. What are your other 2, Chris? Because you shared number 5. What were your other 2?
So number 6 too. So I would say,
Yeah,
combined,
clearly 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. Combined for both with 5 through 8 are just excellent string of holes. But I would say number 6 is probably one of my favorites, and especially the green complex is one of my favorites, and why I like this. So any type of interesting and different green that you're not going to see at other courses that you play really intrigue me and get me to want to come back. And I think that's why, again, I'll talk about it. That's why I love Gil Hant's courses, because I feel like, some of his green complexes are just some that you only see, on tracks that he builds. So whereas this green is very, very narrow, I would say it's only maybe 8 yards wide at its widest part, and 4 to 5 yards wide at its narrowest, but it goes deep about 15 yards. So it's this really long, skinny green with undulating hills on each side of it that kind of, if you land correctly on those hills, it'll funnel right back into the green. It is a absolutely spectacular green, in my opinion, and it makes a par 4 that isn't necessarily one of the most challenging par 4s. I mean, I would say it makes it one of the most challenging, and that's why this is like the 3rd hardest hole in the course, because I would say it's pretty wide open until you get to the green, and then once you get to the green, that's kind of where the challenge was. Where me, I kind of blew my second shot off to the left, missed probably about 5 or 6 yards left to the green, and I don't know what, I had it dialed on Saturday with my wedges, and I hit a beautiful wedge shot out of the grass, hit the slope off the hill, and it rolled to about 2 to 3 feet. So that it's a hard hole, because if you don't hit it correctly, that thing, and you hit the hill incorrectly, that thing's blasting off the other side. Or if you try to land it straight onto the green and not let it do its work right off the hill, you can really, be dangerous, and it's going to fly off the backside too. So
Yeah, it's a great one. I mean, I like totally destroyed my drive. I pulled it as well. So I think I had a gap wedge in on that hole. But to your point, I mean, there was nowhere to land that. So I shoved it a little bit. I mean, just a little bit. And I was up on the hill and chipped it on and made bogey. So I mean, again, even a hole that like I totally overpowered, then just kind of laughed at me because again, I mean, there was almost nowhere where that flag is. So again, just a great hole where it's like, okay, you can bully this, but if you're not, if you don't hit a wedge shot within a hula hoop, you're going to get boned,
Yeah. And I mean, we could literally go into a deep dive of every single one of these holes, because I think every hole is different and interesting. There's not one hole alike throughout the entire course, which, I would say my my favorite hole, third favorite hole in the entire track has got to be 18. It's one of those holes where it's a risk reward type of hole. So you have to hit a very, very good drive off the tee. It's about 462 from where we were playing. So if you can hit a solid, drive about 260, between 260 and 280, you're then looking, close to 180, 200 in, which still gives you a solid, 5-iron hybrid, whatever your 200 is, into this green. But if you miss it short, there's a giant rock wall that it looks like they used to have a little pond in before the green, but it looks like they've kind of let it dry out.
You can actually see like the sprinkler head in the middle.
Yeah. Like it looks like they might have had a fountain or some sort of thing there.
Dude, that thing would be crazy if there was water.
If there was water in a fountain, it would make that hole 10 times harder.
I mean, you made a par and you would have made a quad.
Oh, easily. Yeah, and so what I'm telling people not to do. So basically, if you hit it short, there's a rock wall, and then you're in this basically old little pond bed. But since there's no water, it is still, in play. You're able to hit it out of there. But it makes it very challenging with that giant rock wall there, which, like I said, I made that mistake of hitting it short, hit the rock wall, stayed right below it. I hit again. My wedges were on point on Saturday. I hit a flop shot over this rock wall onto the green to about five feet. And it was, again, incredible wedge shot. Toot my own horn here, but basically parred out there, ended it, great hole. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's risk reward, and it's not an easy green to land it on either. So the green is kind of like eggplant shaped. So it kind of flows all the way to the back, and you can, if the pin is tucked into the back, you can hit it on the front of the green. It'll roll all the way to the back right. But the pin was on the front that day, so you had to hit it right on point, and you had to hit it nice and high so it stopped for you, because like I said, before this green, there's not a lot of space. There's, I'd say 5 yards of not rough, but lead-in, fairway area up to the green, and that's about all you got. So you really have to be on point with that shot, especially the front hole placement. But one of my favorite holes, just because of that risk reward as well, because I mean, you could lay up or you could hit it right and you'd have a safe little chip in, but especially when you're playing Vegas, you don't want to do that shit. You want to fucking go for that thing. You want to make that money. You want to take their money, which me and Juan absolutely executed. So thank you again.
I mean, you could also play the way I did. Kill my driver, I hit a 6-iron under that green, and then 3-jack for par. That was my day. I think I shot 85 with all bogeys.
Which is infuriating because I shot one worse than Ashton, and that was because I had 5 OBs throughout the day. So
red stakes, not OBs.
My fault. Red Stakes. So I hit it 5 times into the vineyards.
I'm saying if you shot 86 with 6 OBs,
5.
5 OBs, that would be like, if you hadn't lost those balls, you would have shot like 68.
Yeah. No. So Red Stakes, 1 stroke penalties, but still, basically 5 strokes thrown down the drain.
Yeah, your short game was incredible.
Yeah. The putter and the wedges were on fire on Saturday, and that's kind of been my MO because I haven't been able to pick what driver I'm using, which I only have two days left before I have to make this final decision.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to tell the people about you recently sold some clubs, so you had trying to cut down on your collection?
I did. So I decided, so I can no longer tinker, that I was going to get rid of a lot of the excess that I had, which is funny because some of my excess was like brand new stuff. But I decided this year that I was going to go back to my high school days and go all woods, no hybrids, irons, wedges, all of that.
Oh, so no more ping hybrids?
No more ping hybrids. So I actually
you could sell me those.
And I got rid of the Rad Speed 3-wood.
Yeah.
And I am now all Titleist TSI 2 3-wood and 7-wood with my Cobra 5-wood tour head as my 5-wood. So
we can't say we're the hybrid boys anymore.
Nope. But we're definitely Titleist boys because you got 2 Titleist hybrids and I got 2 Titleist woods.
And it's kind of the thing that will not be spoken of, but my 3-wood's also Titleist. So I mean, I think Titleist doing something right with their woods and hybrids because I mean, my hybrid will never come out of my bag, but man, I love those Titleist hybrids.
It's absolutely incredible how good the TSI line is this year. Yeah. I will say this, and thank you, props to my rep from Callaway for the Epic Speed driver. But if I was not given a driver this year, and if I didn't have the sim last year, the TSI line would absolutely be the top of my list for the driver that I would have purchased for myself this year. My opinion, Titleist killed it this year. Between that one, the sim, and the Callaway, I mean, you really can't go wrong with any of the equipment out this year. It's absolutely incredible. But
real quick though, about mentioning TaylorMade, I have to put this in like for the record that you wore the Sim 2 hat, Chris.
I did.
The Bassmaster Classic. And your excuse was it was free. Yeah, I mean, if you want some lunch, I could like barf into a bag for you, and that would also be free. I don't exactly know what that rationale is, right?
So my reasoning to wear this hat was because me and Ashton have definitely been roasting this hat, seeing it on Dustin Johnson, a lot of these TaylorMade pros throughout the last couple weeks. When the TaylorMade rep came in with this hat and gave all of us one of these, I was so excited to wear this on the next round that I played with Ashton because this was going to light a fire underneath it. He was so infuriated when he saw this thing on my head.
I said, "What the fuck is on your head?"
That's the exact words he said. I turned to him and I just smile and laugh. And I was like, well, it was free. And I knew that would infuriate him even more because even if it was given to him for free, he would never, ever wear it.
Right in the trash can.
Right in the trash can. But so now I have something that I can just wear every time I play with Ashton, make him upset, take his money, and get his mind off of playing golf.
Well, you can be Dustin Johnson and I can be Kevin Na. So when you rake away a 6-inch putt, I can put my hand condescendingly on your shoulder and explain to you that I have to give you a putt. So we can play that. I'll start. Well, Jack walks in putt, so we've got everything there. But I got to give a shout out. I got to give a shout out to Nick. When I sent Nick the picture of us, he said, "Gorgeous looking course. What the fuck is Chris wearing on his head?" So validated. And then he said, Is he trying to scare up some trout? Is he a lure guy or a worms guy? Classic bamboo rod, fly rod, spinning tackle? Is he always telling stories about the big one that got away? His other podcast, the Fish Pals? So those are all questions that I think people need to know, Chris.
I'm getting ready for our trip to Big Cedar Lodge. Just getting my collection of bass hats ready, so that when we do go out there and play golf, I'll be ready to also go fish and hunt, and I'll be ready to go.
I would like a 32-ounce steak. Like, cool, that'll be $300. It's like perfect. This is exactly the golf trip we're looking for.
That's what we're talking about. Values and just discounted rates and discounted golf trips. Big Cedar Lodge is it. That's what I'm getting ready for. No, we're not trying to hate on Big Cedar Lodge. Big Cedar Lodge is doing some fun things out there, but it's a ridiculous hat. And to be honest, I wear it because it's funny and ridiculous. But yeah, it was hilarious to see Ashton's reaction to it. All worth it.
It wasn't great. But then to wrap it up, Chris, I mean, I think we should also mention it's always really nice post round. Now that the world's reopening, Chardonnay has a really nice little back porch area with fire pits that overlooks the practice facility, the green, the first tee. That's really nice. And I did not get food because I brought my own, but it looked like you had quite a good burger as well.
Yeah, me and Juan got ourselves a burger, something to drink, after the round to kind of decompress. And, Bob Becker, the GM, came out and chatted with us a while. And I mean, I can't say anything nice, anything bad about Bob. Really, really great guy, down to earth, approachable, friendly, and he is running a tight ship out there. The cool thing about Bob, he's born and raised in Napa. This is his backyard. He grew up working at Kennedy Park, which is a very, very, very muni local, watering hole and track for most of the locals here in Napa. And then when he got a little bit older, he transitioned to work the cart barn and everything at Chardonnay, and just worked his way up to general manager, which is just an incredible story. I know he became a PGA professional while he was there, and he is definitely one of those grassroots public golf guys that just made his passion his career. And those are the guys that we need in golf, that are running courses, running tight ships, running great facilities. Because this guy invited us out, not knowing a lot about us, not knowing a lot about, what we do. And, we just told him we wanted to showcase, his course. And he didn't, have to go out of his way. And he, didn't go out of his way to, pull all the stops and create, an environment that was, better than what anybody else experiences when they come out there.
No.
We literally went out there, checked in, he let the pro shop know who we were. They were like, "Oh yeah, you guys are the podcast guys." Bob popped out of the back and introduced himself. Just a complete class act. And the marshals knew who we were, but didn't treat us any differently. Like I said, they came up, told us we were playing slow, keep fucking moving. It's and that's what we want. If we get invited out, like we said, we're gonna talk straight. But if we didn't get invited out and we paid full freight for Chardonnay, I would be giving the exact same takes I'm giving now.
Yeah. And the other thing we should mention too, we haven't mentioned cost. It's $60 on a Saturday. Like, that's as good as it gets. I mean, it's fantastic. It's one of the best courses I've played in the Bay Area. And at that value, it's phenomenal.
And if you're in the city, it's 30 to 45 minute drive.
In the morning, if there's a wreck, it's an hour and 5 minutes. Just
yes.
So you know, hence why I almost missed our tee time. So
it's an extra time. Yeah, you always give yourself a little extra time. Even for me in the East Bay in Antioch, it's about an hour, or I'm sorry, about 40 minutes. So it's not bad at all. Like I said, if it's in traffic, close to an hour, but it's definitely doable anytime you want to play. And for those rates, it's absolutely incredible. I mean, you can't beat that. And one of the things we were talking with Bob, which we were really stoked about, and we talked about in previous podcasts, is what Presidio is doing, which hurts our soul a little bit.
Oh, good call.
Is they're including the cost of carts at Presidio. They include the cost of cart with the green fee. You don't have an option for walking. You pay the same rate as a rider does, which we were talking with Bob, and that was a big thing that he started this year, was to separate that. So he offers walking rates, which are at a much more reasonable rate, and then offers a $20, per rider for carts on top of it, which any of us that walk, or any of us that, really play munis and really love the game, you're going to want to walk, or, push your cart or do anything like that. And being forced to have a cart rate, even if you don't want to ride, is ridiculous. And for, a club like this, that, to be honest, Chardonnay, we rode for this round, and I would say most of the time when we go to Chardonnay, we do ride, because on some of the holes, it is a little bit of a trek. You are going to have to walk up some hills. There definitely are, some distances in between some of the holes, but it's still doable on foot. Absolutely.
I've actually never carted till this time, and I think it's totally fine. To your point, yeah, there are some uphills. You got to strategically leave your push cart, but you can do both. I mean, it's not one of those places you should not walk, but you should be prepared for, there's sometimes you're gonna have like a 3 or 4 minute walk in between holes.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as long as you keep a pace of play and everything is great. But the separation with, walking green fees with the addition of $20 per rider per cart is a way I think all golf courses should go. And that was one thing that we harped on Presidio for changing and switching over to that, because, as we said, for public and muni golf, it's all about affordability. And if you're adding extra cost onto something that someone would prefer to walk and save the money, that hindrance is kind of ridiculous, in my opinion. Yeah. But
it was a really special day. It was, and again, the weather was great, because a couple weeks ago I was out there. It was chilly in the morning, and to be clear, the course wasn't in bad shape. It just hadn't been mowed recently. Like, all the areas around the vineyards were like, the grass was quite high. This time everything was just like really tight out there, and it was just like, I think it was like 70 by the time in the afternoon. Like, couldn't have asked for a better day.
To be honest, I mean, you cannot get better weather than Napa. I mean, that's what the temperate weathers are the reason that they grow so much wine out there. So to be able to have golf courses of this caliber out in wine country, and with those temperatures and weather that we get to experience, it's absolutely a spectacular day out there, especially in the spring like we experience. So again, I can't give any more props than we have to Bob and his staff out there, and the superintendents that are keeping everything tight, and they're great marshals that they got working on the weekends, because they're keeping a tight ship out there, and as long as they keep running their program and facilities like they are, it's going to be one of our favorite public courses in the Bay Area for a long time.
Yeah, get out there and tell them we sent you.
Please, yeah. Please, and if you do go out there, please tag, MuniciPals podcasts on our, on Instagram or Twitter, and please tag Chardonnay. Let them know that we sent you guys out there. We'd love to see more of our followers and listeners, going out there and tagging us in there. That would be awesome. And if you don't follow us on our social medias, please do that as well.
It's at MuniciPals Golf.
So both of them at MuniciPals Golf. My apologies. So if you do go out there and play us, tag us in there, and also give us a follow too.
Yeah, the Twitter account has 0 tweets, but that will change soon. I've just gotta.
We're getting it started.
Yeah, I gotta start somewhere. It's kind of like when you have one of those school papers that's like 10 pages, and you're like, don't even know where to start. So I did need to make that analogy, but it's late on a Monday night.
And any of our followers, if you guys DM us and you want some golf tees or anything any of our golf tees or anything like that, please DM us. I'd love to send you a little care package, from me and Ashton. We've got some other things in the works right now that we're going to be getting put together. Well, eventually we will have a merch store up with some items on there for you guys as well. So some great things in the works. Thank you again to all of our followers and everybody listening. We have absolutely enjoyed everything since we started this podcast. It has been so much fun for the both of us. We can't wait to continue doing this. We've got some great things coming up in the works that we're going to have talking about, and more course reviews and some great episodes coming up, especially with Ashton's buddy Nick back home. Being a new golfer, starting up through COVID and kind of getting the bug like we all have, and kind of going into depth on new golfer and experiencing, public golf inside of that, and other great episodes, especially with our great friends. Hopefully the Muni kids coming on as well. And if you've never checked them out, please go check out Muni Kids on Instagram, or check out their website for great head covers as well. So some great things coming up. We also do have some special tracks that we're getting out and playing. Two of my absolute favorite courses that I've ever played.
Dark Horse out in Auburn, California. And then I'm taking them out to the Robert Trent Jones Jr. track at the Ridge, which is just a mile from Dark Horse as well. And then Sunday, on Easter Sunday, I myself am going to play another absolute amazing hidden gem. And I'm hoping that the greens are a little bit more up to caliber this time. Going to play Castle Oaks, which is going to be a great course. So with some of my coworkers, get them out and introduce them to some great golf. Yeah, so. And I'm playing Monarch Bay. Shout out to Brandon. I'm super excited to get out there. I've never played there, don't know anything about it, but I'm just excited to see.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, B is one of my favorite guys to play with, so you're going to enjoy that. That is going to be a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited. So, yeah, we both have 3 rounds of golf in 3 days, so there'll be a lot to talk about next Monday.
Yes, sir. So look out for some more course reviews, also some fun stories that we're going to get into with some cash games as well. Still trying to figure that out, trying to swindle these guys into some Vegas again. Well, we'll see what happens. We're going to call it tonight. See you guys next time. Thank you again, MuniciPals.
Peace.